that. There's a lot in the news. The Republicans and, well, bizarre Republican stuff. Number one, Devin Nunes is actually proposing that the staff of the House Intelligence Committee, the committee that he's the chair of, the one that, you know, came up with the phony dossier and all this other stuff, that their staff, you know, some of the staffers work for Democratic members, some of the staffers work for Republican members, but while the Democratic and Republican members of Congress tend to kind of isolate themselves, their staff all work together because, you know, they have to collaboratively produce, you know, digest intelligence information, prepare it for the members, and, you know, and then collaboratively deal with whatever comes out of whatever the members want. Nunes wants to put a physical wall. Yes, wall building is really in right now in the Trump administration. He wants to build a physical wall down the middle of the room and put the Democratic staff on one side and the Republican staff on the other side so that those damn Democrats can't hear what the Republicans are up to. It's insane. It's insane. I wanted to talk about neoliberalism and also what the Republicans are up to with regard to the deficit and this new budget deal that they're you know, it looks like it's going to pass. Nancy Pelosi has just said she's not going to whip votes against it. She's not going to try to fight this. The budget deal that was worked out last night, I guess, by Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, and the deal actually, you know, other than the fact that it doesn't address DACA, is, you know, not an unreasonable one. It jacks up military spending, which, you know, doesn't make me happy, but it's okay. And but it also, you know, funds a whole bunch of domestic programs. The problem is that it is massively increasing the debt and the deficit, this deal. And it's not so much a problem, you know, problem. I mean, I'm not particularly freaked out by the U.S. deficit or the U.S. debt being, you know, $20 trillion right now, but Republicans are. And we're looking at the cost of debt service, that is the interest that we pay on the national debt, if we go down this road. Because of the GOP tax scam, because of the tax cuts, the $1.5 trillion that we are borrowing in the market, selling bonds, the $1.5 trillion of debt that has been added to the United States, you know, debt burden, as it were, because of that $1.5 trillion, we're looking at the interest payments, because you got to pay interest on the debt, right? We're looking at the interest payment, and plus, you know, they want to add over $1 trillion in debt just with this deal that they came up with last night. We're looking at the cost of servicing the interest between now and 2027, which is just, you know, 9 years down the road, going from a little over $300 billion a year to over $900 billion a year. So we're going to start adding about $1 trillion a year just in debt payments. And that's really going to explode the deficit. Now, from the Republican point of view, as long as Republicans are in control of the House and Senate and the White House, that's a good thing. They want the country to be as much in debt as possible. You go back to 1974, Judah Wanniski, the Republican strategist, came up with this idea. He published it in the Wall Street Journal that year, or maybe it was published in '76, but it was, you know, right around that time. He first laid it out, though, in '74. Judah Wanniski said, you know, it's called the two Santa Claus theory, and he said, when Republicans are in office, and we saw this during Reagan, we saw it during Bush Jr., we saw it during, and we're seeing it right now during Trump. When Republicans are in office, run up the debt as hard and as fast as you can. There's two good things that come out of that. The first is that by running up the debt, you're spending additional money, which stimulates the economy. So everybody thinks, hey, when Republicans are in control, the economy is great because there's all this money flowing into it. And even though it's phony baloney money, right, it's borrowed money. And number two, which of course you're seeing right now, and number two, when Democrats come into power, start screaming about the debt. Oh my God, look at this debt. We've got to cut back on Medicare and Medicaid. We've got to destroy these programs. We've got to go back to the plan that David Koch ran for vice president in 1980 on. end Medicare altogether, end Social Security altogether, end Medicaid altogether, end all public education, end all support for higher education. You know, just kill it all. And then give more tax breaks to the billionaires. So, but it's amazing how and this is not a secret, by the way. The two Santa Claus theory was heavily promoted in the 70s in Republican circles, among Republican strategists, and was well known in the Reagan White House, was well known in the Bush Jr. White House. Well, even the Bush Sr. White House knew about it, although George Bush Sr. called it voodoo economics. He wasn't so excited about it, although he went along with it. I mean, he continued to run up the debt during the 4 years that he was president. And just not as enthusiastically as Reagan tripled the national debt in 8 years. George Herbert Walker Bush only, you know, increased it a little, a trillion more or thereabouts. And, but, you know, George W. Bush, hey, let's add $5 trillion to the national debt. We'll have 2 wars. We'll have a giant stimulus. We'll do all kinds of stuff. Right. And now Trump and the Republicans are doing the same thing. But what's amazing is how the media doesn't get this. Today's Washington Post, the headline, Republicans are completely reversing themselves on the deficit. Well, duh, they do every time they get in power. They only yell about the deficit when there's a Democrat in the White House. But apparently nobody told Damian Paletta and Eric Warner. I don't know, maybe they're millennials. It's, you know, they don't remember all the publicity about this back in the 70s. So they write in today's Washington Post, on Wednesday, they formally, talking about the Republican lawmakers, on Wednesday, Republicans formally broke free of those fiscal principles, this is, you know, of balanced budgets, and announced a plan that would add $500 billion in new spending over just 2 years and suspend the debt ceiling until 2019. 2019, by the way, being the year that if Democrats take the House or Senate, the year that Democrats start regaining power in Congress, so the Republicans can start squealing about the debt, right? This came several months after Republicans passed a tax law that would add more than $1 trillion to the debt over a decade. So here we're adding $1.5 trillion, you know, in the GOP tax scam, and then another $0.5 trillion just from this legislation that's going to be voted on, I believe, today. The gap between spending and revenue in 2019 is projected to eclipse $1.1 trillion. Next year's See, you've got two things here. There's the debt. That's the total load of all the debt the government has run up. And then you have the deficit. The deficit is each year's contribution to the debt. So Republicans are screaming about a $20 trillion debt, and then they produce a $1.1 trillion deficit, which is going to take the debt to $20.1 trillion, $21.1 trillion. And then Damian and Erica write in today's Washington Post, the debt binge caps off a major reversal for the Republican Party. Don't be scratching your head. You know, reporters, come on, get with the program. Understand what's going on. A number of House conservatives on Wednesday said they were mortified about the new spending agreement, but there appears to be little they can do to stop it. See, this is what the same thing they did under Reagan. Oh, we can't stop these people from spending this money. It just has to go. And then you get the word. Paul Ryan is getting ready for when the Democrats take control. Ashley Strong, a spokeswoman for Ryan, said, it is spending on programs such as Medicare and Medicaid that drive our long-term debt problem. Spending on programs like these will, quote, continue to be a problem that Ryan hopes Washington will finally address when Democrats come into power. Right. I got to tell you about neoliberalism right after this.